Hello, everybody. It's Mr. McKenna, and it is, it's technically Monday, November 13th. And what I am offering today for this session is just a brief introduction to our second unit in this online philosophy course for Canadian College Italy. And that one will deal with our introduction to social and political philosophy. And right off the bat, I'm going to say that what I'm concentrating on is really political philosophy, and the social aspects of that are really a function of the reality that the social realm is just simply an extension of the political realm, and all things that are social are in many instances political, and all things political are in many ways social. So just truncating this, and we'll reference it largely as our discussions about political philosophy and our treatment of some rather well known, in most cases, political philosophers. So let me begin by reiterating the fact that this unit is based on the Ontario curriculum. That is what we're following as we move through what I'm calling the phases. So rather than set up a strict schedule for you to follow as a student in this online course, just phases that you should be working through, like the phases of the moon, to get to a completion. And the completion for every one of the units in this course is, of course, the culminating assignment. So we have some flexibility with that, but what I'd be very interested in you doing to the best of your ability is working towards those culminating assignments as the final phase, if you will, of each of the learning units. So the overall expectations, there are two introductory PowerPoint presentations that I've put on the Google Classroom for everybody to look at. And so I don't need to read my slides, but just to give you some reference points, I'll recite some of the fundamentals here. So what I'm hoping that you'll be able to do by looking at some of the videos, reading some of the materials, and particularly going through the Platonic dialogue that I have selected for this particular unit, you'll be able to understand social and political philosophy. And in order to do that, if you can be able to demonstrate an understanding of the main questions in political philosophy and the positions of major political philosophers and schools of philosophy with respect to these questions. Now, I'll just quickly reveal to you that the central political philosophical question is, what is the good city, or what is the best way to live within a collective? And of course, we know that there are good and bad forms of every sort of government, whether it's a government by one, or a monarchy, or a tyranny, the government of several, like an aristocracy or an autocracy. And then there is the rule by the many, which is the democracy, or the very bad forms of democracy, which is the tyranny of the majority. So we'll be looking at the different forms, but the essential question is, how should we live, and how should we live together in collective groups? And that is the central political question. So we'll also be exploring political philosophy, and here I will hope that students will be able to demonstrate an understanding of the theories of political philosophy, and to be able to some extent, evaluate those responses and some of these major questions in how we live. Also, an overall expectation is making connections to political philosophy. Here, I want you to demonstrate your understanding of the connections between social and political philosophy, especially, and other areas of philosophy. They will note that many of our philosophers, for example, Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, Kant, Hegel, Heidegger, Nietzsche, Karl Marx, their political thinking overlaps with some significant thinking in other areas like ethics and epistemology. So we'll begin to see how there are patterns of overlap in these different schools of philosophy, particularly political philosophy. We'll also expect you, as an overall goal of this online course, is to use philosophical reasoning skills. If you remember back when we were looking at philosophical foundations, how do you reason logically, building a strong argument for supporting a particular approach to the key political questions? So then the PowerPoint slides that I have drill down a little more deeply into those areas of understanding, exploring, making connections, and using philosophical reasoning. And I'll let you explore those on your own. However, the time frame for us in a general way, I talked earlier about the phases that I'd like you to work your way through for Unit 2. We're kind of beginning now, and hopefully we can wrap up this particular unit. I will be moving to Unit 3, which is ethics, at the beginning of December. So you kind of have this 3-week window within which to try and cover all of those areas that I've outlined for Unit 2. Again, the culminating assignment is going to be worth 50 marks. And in this case, it's beginning to ask you to form an essay that deals with a particular topic and a particular political philosopher. And in this case, I'd like to negotiate with you, have a discussion with you about what topic you'd like to pick. There are many, and which political philosopher you'd like to pick. Again, there are quite a significant number, so we can dovetail with your own personal and academic interests for that. The other component of this general introduction to political philosophy is to simply ask the question, what is political philosophy? And it's really based on the view that the abiding political concerns of human beings are not amenable to science, like chemistry or physics. We talk about political science, but because we're dealing with humans and the unpredictability of humans and the sort of unchangeable human nature that we see, that the idea of political philosophy is resisting the overlap of or the overarching interests of science. They're not mathematical equations that can be applied to how people will live. And we've seen in numerous instances, perhaps the current crisis in Israel and Gaza indicates that political challenges are always with us, and in profound and troubling and often confusing and challenging ways. So we'll explore that a little bit from a philosophical perspective. There is a philosophical content to the political questions that we face in our daily lives, and some profound and deeply important political questions that relate to the way in which we live, and philosophy can play an important role in helping us sort out our answers. There are never any final answers, but our hypotheses about how we live can be treated in a philosophical and thoughtful manner. It's useful to, and in my view, instructive to actually read political philosophy works. And of course, we will be doing that, looking at the Meno as the mainstay for this particular unit. And I would love to have more time, an infinite amount of time, to explore other works, but we'll start with the Meno and look at other works of other political philosophers. My choice for this particular offering is to look at Machiavelli, Niccolo Machiavelli, the Italian political philosopher, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, born in Geneva, but aligned with French political philosophy, and the German philosopher Karl Marx, with his friend Friedrich Engels, produced some important political philosophy. We will be using, and again, I have a textbook, if I can just lay my hands on it, bear with me. This is a prop, The History of Political Philosophy, edited by Leo Strauss and Joseph Cropsey. This we have online on Google Classroom. This will be our, I guess I'll call it our Bible for part of the course to look at specific political philosophers. There's a good sweep of chapters dealing with the most important political philosophers over time, from Socrates to I think Nietzsche, maybe even Heidegger. So we can delve into that book to a degree. It's a great resource for everybody to use. There are several things that we can look at as we go through cycle through the resources that are available to you in this particular unit, but I think we need to consider the fact that there is an important distinction between nature. Many political philosophers like Rousseau and Thomas Hobbes talked about the state of nature and what human beings, man was like at the beginning when they lived in nature. The state of nature is an important convention that we look at. Into the civilized world, when men and women moving into the cities, particularly the example of the city-state in Athens or ancient Greece, we'll look at how that evolved and transformed over time to our current form of liberal democracy. What are the critiques of that? What are the supports for that? What are possible areas for change, either evolutionary or revolutionary? We'll start to unpack some of those learnings that will lead us into some deeper areas of thought, and I think that will be worthwhile. Aristotle said at one point, man is by nature a political animal. And we'll look at what that means. Certainly, one of Aristotle's works is called the Politics. So we'll consider some of that. We'll look at some writers over time like Thucydides and Xenophon, and of course, Aristotle, Plato. We'll try and make some good headway and bring ourselves right up to what I will call postmodern times with thinkers and writers such as Michel Foucault and other schools of thought that have brought us into the 21st century in terms of political thinking, even including some people who are outside of the realm of political philosophy but speak about political things. Folks like Noam Chomsky, who is by training a linguist, but had some important things to say on the political front. So we have approximately, and that's not hard and fast, we have approximately 3 weeks to operate within the confines of Unit 2, social and political philosophy, with my particular interest in the political dimension. And there are several important thinkers. I'll be offering you some resources as they come to hand, but I've laid out the phases that you can follow for this particular unit in the Google Classroom. Again, I implore you to get in touch with me if you have any comments or questions or even suggestions for how we can improve this, and we'll see where we go. So good luck with this next unit. Keep in touch, and I will stay in touch with you. Ciao.